Greetings and welcome to Growth Hacking Show, where we have founders, CEOs, presidents of the company come and share their experience, their life journey. And today we have a John Hendrick. He is the president of SafeCo LLC, medical device consultant. And John is a visionary leader. Have done, let me read a few things from his LinkedIn profile. It's amazing startup and growing medical divisions to become a $600 million industry leader. Successfully raised over 180 million in funding for over 4 startup companies. Expert with 30 years of global medical device experience. Please join me to give a warm welcome to our guest, John Hendrick. John, welcome.
Thank you, Siddique. I appreciate asking me on.
Yeah, wonderful. John, let me start with this. Where were you? What happened? Who you were surrounded with that inspired you to get into medical device industry?
Well, it was by happenstance, really. I was a plant manager of a cement roof tile plant many, many years ago, well over 38 years ago. And the company got bought out. And so I needed to look for another opportunity. And a production manager job came up at American Hospital Supply for the catheter department. And so I applied and got the job. And so in 1978, that's when I started in the medical device industry.
Great. Who inspired you?
Well, I guess it was the individual who probably most inspired me was when I was in college as a management intern working in the steel industry back in those days. And he was always pushing me forward to, number one, get the education and to, take risks. And his name was Jim Salmon. He's since passed away, but he was a good mentor for me.
Oh, that is great. So we all have a Jim in our life somehow,
Yes.
Yeah. So John, based on you have a very impressive profile. You have helped so many other startup companies, and you become the visionary leader in the industry. Based on your experience, what are the top 3 steps what someone should not do as a business based on your experience, your mistakes, which someone can avoid, learn from your mistakes?
My mistakes, which there are a number of them, but let me kind of give you maybe the top 4 or 5. That's okay with you?
Top 3 are good enough based on the time,
Okay.
So we can learn wisdom from you,
Well, it depends if you're going into a large corporation, of which I was associated with, or a startup. Let me talk about startups. Primarily, it's finding out the patent layout and portfolio that, in most startup companies, they may not have patents that have been issued yet. Finding out what the overall layout of the patent portfolio is in the marketplace is critical. Many, many times, on a couple of times, I have got into a step where I didn't do a thorough analysis up front. And without a very good fence and a high wall of patents, it's going to be very difficult to get to an exit strategy. Number 2 is being involved in the clinical data. I went into a company of which I made an error over 20 years ago and did not look at the clinical evidence. And once the product was out there, it came to light that the clinical evidence was, let me just say, distorted. And so it caused a significant problem for the company. Number 3 would be the team that you develop. I am very much hands-on. I have written protocols for clinical trials. I train doctors in the clinical trial. I was involved with all of the clinical gathering of data before you do a submission to the FDA. Getting involved with those activities so that you see yourself, you become convinced yourself that the product will do what you're going to claim in the marketplace.
That's very important these days, especially in the vaccine thing,
I would add one more, and that is make sure you understand the reimbursement process, whether it be internationally or whether it be domestically, because you can have the best product in the world, but if doctors don't get paid or have a way to get paid, it's not going to go anywhere.
Yep. Wonderful. That's good. That's a great, great the bonus one. So, John Hendrick, you are very successful for raising funds for startups. So, what are the top 3 success secrets for as a startup which can use as a cheat sheet to raise funds successfully on this startup?
Well, I would say is that you have to be involved in the societies and be able to present well to the venture capital groups. Contacts is critical. It's one of the hardest things for a newbie who is just getting into that role as to where do I go, who do I talk to, because these venture capital people, they can be ruthless. And so understanding the venture capital people you're talking to and what they expect. Make sure that you have a very, very good attorney that understands the documentation, so to help you through the documentation. So when you do start to put together a fund, I would also say that the easier way for a startup is not through venture capital, but through either angel or private investors.
Or angel private investor. John, as a startup, because most of the time it's their first startup, they don't have that much of experience. They have the idea and they want to build a product. As you said, as a follow-up question to venture capitalists, they could be ruthless. They don't have that much experience of dealing with them. How they get started to learn that?
Well, here is what, I have taught some entrepreneurial classes at a couple of colleges there in the Silicon Valley. And I get that question all the time.
Yeah.
Is that it's not realistic for someone who does not have the experience of running a company that a venture capital group is going to want to put you in as the president. The risk is too high for them. It does happen occasionally, but not very often. And so for these folks that have a great idea, find someone that has that experience level that brings the credibility, because these people are putting their money in, and at the end of the day, it's about your ability to bring forward a company either through the development process, through the regulatory processes, through the manufacturing processes. And if you are, say, like a doctor, they don't have that background or experience, or in a lot of cases, you might talk to a salesperson that's their total experience. And again, it's tough, or a technical engineer. So my advice is to find someone like me that has done it before, that can bring forward the credibility that you need to raise money, whether it be in through angels or through private investors and through VCs and or a corporation, because corporations do make investments, and I've done those as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's a great advice, John. And that brings me to next follow-up question to this: how to vet a consultant like yourself to figure out, to make sure I'm associating myself with the right person with the right experience,
Could you phrase that question again, Siddique?
How to vet a consultant, like you said, a partner with a person like yourself, how to vet that consultant? What type of questions should be asking a consultant to make sure I am engaging with the right type of consultant before?
Well, here is what I would suggest,
Yeah.
is that you need 7 to 8 individuals that you can talk to that has worked with that consultant in the past. Look at their background. What did they do? What kind of leadership do they have? What have they demonstrated what they have? It's about demonstration of actual skills. If you have a product that is in the early stage of development, it's important that the CEO understands the engineering aspects of it. Secondly, what happens after you think you have a product and you've done the animal data and the bench data, you then take it to, and I did a lot of offshore work because it was quick, because trying to go through the FDA and your first phase of clinicals, short, small clinicals to prove it out, takes forever. Yeah. And startups, cash is king and time kills you. You must be able to move quickly. And the best way to do that is to find an offshore physician base that has a good clinical staff, and you're involved in it, to go down there and actually be involved with the actual clinical. So the amount of experience that a CEO has or a consultant is important with demonstrated results.
Yeah, proven results.
And then, of course, it is extremely helpful to have the reimbursement knowledge, because what you want to try to avoid is getting consultant after consultant after consultant on your team. And the ideal scenario is that I always try to get operating type of people on my board, and that has been most beneficial because you can call them up and get information without it costing you anything.
Yeah.
And they also will help you and guide you, and they are much more effective than, say, the venture capitalists that are primarily, financial types.
So have the great team and also have the great board for all the missing pieces in your company.
Pardon?
So you mentioned about having a great team in your in a startup, and also then have a great board,
yes.
Right type of people in the board of advisors to make sure you can fill in the blanks, all these parts what you don't know.
That's right, because I can tell you, nobody knows it all.
Yeah,
the older I get, the more I know what I don't know.
That's a good one. Yeah. So, John, you mentioned about a great team. I'm blessed to have a great team. Muhammad Awas recommended us to talk. So thank you, Awas, for I always want to acknowledge my team member who recommended me, person like you, John. So, John, I appreciate anything I should have asked you and I didn't get around to it.
No, I think that at least I think that this short interview is, hopefully it's helpful to some new folks out there, or whether it be a doctor that's got a great idea. I'm always open to doing consulting, and they can contact me through the LinkedIn.
Wonderful, definitely. Just find out, search for John Hendrick, President of SafeCo SafeCo LLC, medical device consultant. John, you are on a growth hacking show, and on your screen, if you see it, I have my question written in front of you. What would you say to your best friend about a growth hacking show when I'm not there?
Growth hacking show. Maybe you could give me a little bit more definition around
You know,
that.
the show like this, where they come, a person like you who come on this show and share their experience. What would you say to your friend about this interview when I'm not there?
Oh, well, since you're here, I guess I can't say, right? I think that any time that you have the opportunity to give people a chance to contact individuals or hear about other kinds of activities that may help a entrepreneur, I think is a benefit. There's not enough of these kinds of things out there, because especially, people have good ideas or a new CEO that's lacking in experience. I've done quite a bit of mentoring, and, that can be extremely helpful for an individual. So
Definitely. John, as we are about to wrap up, what would you say as a final word?
again, if you think you need some help, you can contact me through LinkedIn, and I'd be more than happy to help you. My background in the medical industry is in cardiology, ophthalmology, urology, and some internal medicine stuff, as well as some adhesives. And if you think that you might need some help in any of those areas, or in manufacturing, I was in manufacturing for many, many years, and I could be of some help there.
Yeah, thank you so much, John Hendrick, for sharing your wisdom with us today on the behalf of a Growth Hacking Show community and our entire team. We really appreciate you. This is Mohammed Siddique signing off from Atlanta, Georgia. All good wishes.